Well, good evening, families, and welcome to our session tonight. We are excited to have you involved in tonight's session. And some of you have just some beautiful profile pictures, but we really want to see your face. So if you can, turn on your cameras as if we were right there with you in the session so we can see your wonderful faces because we miss seeing you. Tonight we've got a special treat because our facilitator is one of us, is involved in Parents Challenge, and we're excited that she's going to be presenting our session tonight. And again, if you did not hear the message in the beginning, we're going to do breakout sessions, and we're going to break you out by elementary, middle, and high school. So we just need you to pick one. You're going to be talking about the same topic, so there's no difference in that. We just want to have those that are in the same grade levels to have conversation, parents to have conversation. So we're excited because this is, let's see, session number 12, and we only have 4 remaining sessions this fall, and then we will begin to release the sessions for the spring. At this point in time, we are going to keep the sessions virtual because 1, we want to keep you safe and healthy. 2, the YMCA is not allowing any outside groups to meet in their facilities. And 3, we just don't know what is going to happen with schools and work and other places starting the new year. So just to keep us moving forward, we will do sessions in the virtual. We probably will have 1 session in January, but we'll really start up again in February, and that'll be part of National School Choice Week. And we are going to do a big event for that. So we'll let you know more about that in December. We're also going to do a meal event in December as well. And we're working out the details for that. We will let you know about that in a couple of weeks. And then also please be on the lookout for our form to tell us about a business that you have, either a product or a service that you provide that we can share with others in Parents Challenge as well as in the community as a whole. That way we can help you to promote your product or your service to our families, but then also to the community at large. So I'll be sending that information out next week. And anyone who is interested in being part of the booklet, the flyer that we're going to create for that, we'd love to have any information on it. And if you have a product that you're going to be providing, we'll certainly need to know, is it something that you'll deliver, or will people be able to order and then you ship that product to them? So that way we can have as much detail as possible to support your business. So be on the lookout for that on next week. So again, we're excited about tonight. We have Eliza Love, who is going to be our presenter tonight. And again, if you have not, give us either elementary, middle, or high school in the chat. And that way, when we go into breakouts, we can then move you into those breakouts. We are waiting. We're supposed to have about 40 people in this session tonight. I think we've got about 21 right now that have logged on. So there'll be more that will be joining us, but in the interest of your time and honoring that, we're going to go ahead and get started. And so Eliza, you're on.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to present. And I appreciate all of you who joined us this evening. I am a very thankful and blessed recipient of Parents Challenge funds to help my kiddos with math and reading tutoring. And so I've just been chatting with the lovely Hendricks ladies over the past year about coming up with something to do. And I thought really at this time, we all could use a little emotional help and social emotional intelligence right now. So we thought it would be a great time to bring this in for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you guys feel free to give me feedback based upon, how well you can see it or if you're having trouble seeing. All right, so we have social emotional intelligence and learning for children. Initially, I designed this to share with parents, but there are also strategies that the kids will find great. And I'm really excited to hear from students because I'm a teacher. So I'm really excited to hear from students what exactly they find that will work for them. And that's something that we'll chat more about in our breakout rooms tonight. All right, as I shared, just a little background on me. Who am I? What gives me the right to be sharing this information with you guys tonight? I am a current Parents Challenge participant. I have my master's in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis in online teaching and learning. For the past 13 years in the Pikes Peak region, I've served as an early childhood educator, a director, and then the past 8 have been serving as a licensed teacher, mostly in School District 11. I'm an adjunct professor at Grand Canyon University, so I work with up and coming teachers, just working with them in early childhood, how they can be the best versions of themselves as they move through their program. And I'm in my dissertation year with North Central University. I'm looking at studying educator emotional intelligence and the student teacher relationship. As you guys either fortunately or unfortunately know, that relationship that your student has with their teacher, or if you're a student yourself, you know that your relationship with your teacher really can give you a wonderful experience in class, or it can be that you dread going to school or you dread going to class because you just don't want to deal with that teacher because they maybe just don't get you. And so I think it's really important for us to study how educators can have emotional intelligence and be very careful and mindful in the relationships they create with students. My proudest accomplishments, and I'll be all done talking about myself. I have 5 kiddos. I have teenage boys and 4-year-old triplets, and I think there's another triplet mama in here somewhere. They're all, or each, excuse me, considered neurodiverse. So they either have strategic reading deficiencies, ADD, speech and behavioral struggles, or even giftedness. And sometimes that's the same thing in one kiddo. So I get what it's like to have to communicate to schools, what your kids need. Alrighty, so we are looking at social emotional intelligence and learning. So what exactly is it? I sent out the survey, before this evening, and a lot of the feedback that I got was you guys just wanted to know what the heck is it and how do we use it and why is it important? The emotional intelligence quotient was established in actually back in the 90s by a man named Daniel Goleman. He also published on it in 2011. And it's similar to the intelligence quotient, but obviously it's regarding your emotions. The 5 main tenets or aspects of emotional intelligence are self-awareness, what you know about yourself; self-regulation, how you control your own emotions; motivation, how you get stuff done, how you feel about what you're doing; empathy, how you can put yourself in the shoes of other people or consider how other people feel based upon your interactions with them. And then again, oops, I'm sorry, I have empathy twice. So then again, there's social skills. So basically how you interact with your coworkers, how you interact with your children, how, if your children, how you interact with your parents, and people at the grocery store. So in society, how we get along with one another. It's really important that you're able to identify what you're feeling. So we're over here on the left part of the slide, that you know how to interpret your emotions. Sometimes we may react out of anger towards our child and we think, well, gosh, why did I do that? I'm not mad at them. I just had a terrible day at work. And it's that type of self reflection that builds our emotional intelligence. So again, with empathy, we're understanding how our emotions impact others, regulating our own emotions. I'll speak later in the presentation quite a bit about as adults, it's our job to model for our children how to be emotionally intelligent. As a mom of 5 kids, I can tell you it doesn't always happen. And so forgiving ourselves is part of that process too, if we have a day that we just can't, make it happen. Really social emotional learning. So in your child's classroom, or if you're attending elementary, middle, high school, you might have heard of capturing kids' hearts. You might have heard of second step. You might have heard PBIS, positive behavior intervention systems. These are each types of social emotional learning curriculums. So social emotional learning, or SEL, really just refers to the type of learning that you're doing when considering your emotional intelligence. So before I move forward, do we have any questions from the students or the parents regarding what emotional intelligence is? I'm trying to see here. Sorry, I'm trying to bring up my little screens again and it went away. I'm used to WebEx, not Zoom, so I'm trying to get used to it. Sorry. Alrighty. So I don't hear anyone speaking up that says they have their questions, so we'll move on. So great. We know now a little bit more about emotional intelligence and social emotional learning. Why does that matter? Um, Really, Daniel Goleman, the studies that he performed in the 80s, 90s, and since have all proven that actually your emotional intelligence is a more reliable indicator of success than your IQ alone. So for years and years and years, decades, almost close to a century, we've measured that intelligence quotient. That's been the be all and end all. And the attitude really, especially in the 80s, 90s, early 2000, was you have it or you don't. So either you have a high IQ and you're going to be successful in life, or you have a low IQ and you're going to struggle. We know now that is absolutely not the truth. We have seen folks with very low IQs who have grit and resilience and perseverance, do amazing things in this world and really change the world. And likewise, we've seen very gifted, highly intelligent people who struggle with such depression and anxiety that they can't produce anything, and move us forward as a society. So we're learning now more that it's really your intelligence quotient that's going to dictate in your future how successful you can be, or the successful strategies you give to your kids. As far as speaking about leadership, 67% of successful leadership comes from emotional intelligence. So if we go back to the left side of the slide with self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, social skills, those are all, if you think about it, leadership skills. And so it really makes sense that, well over half of your success as a leader comes from those skills. And if I have students with me, I can tell you when you're in the classroom, the way you interact with your teacher shows that you're a leader. The way you interact with your peers and with other students shows that you're a leader. And some of you, I'm just going to guess because I'm a 7th grade teacher, the way you decide to tell your parents, oh, yeah, my homework's all done, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, don't worry about it. It's all done. And then, gosh, that progress report comes out and we find out that maybe that isn't the case, right? So even for you students, it's really how you interact with the learning yourself and how honest you are with yourself about, yes, I did all my assignments. I double checked them in my grade book, or no, I know that I still have some assignments outstanding. That's part of being a leader as well. When it comes to technical skills and the intelligence quotient, the emotional intelligence quotient measures twice as important as having those other skills. And again, people like Daniel Goleman, Carol Dweck has the growth mindset book and growth mindset theory. They're doing quite a bit more emotional intelligence research as we progress as a society, and also looking at what strategies and applications we can use to build these skills within ourselves. And then finally, the job force requirements and evaluations. I don't know how often you've been to fast food establishments or restaurants, and I know everybody's under undue stress with COVID. However, sometimes the interactions are not very positive, and so I keep sharing with my older boys that if they in the job force are articulate and can communicate well, if they take personal responsibility for mistakes and learn from them, if they take initiative to do things without being asked, those are some emotionally intelligent ways that they are going to surpass their coworkers just because some families and kiddos, unfortunately, aren't using those skills or trying to develop them. So I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you. We're going to do two more slides, and then you guys are going to get to go into a breakout room, elementary, middle school, high school. You guys can process with each other and think about what I've talked about and what you think might work, and also think about what you're doing, okay? All right, so ways to build social emotional intelligence in your child. If you are the child and you are the student, you can listen for ways to build intelligence in yourself. Sometimes, and we as adults have to be mindful of this as well, there are warning words that we use. So maybe we're starting to use an increase of profanity. Maybe we say, I don't care, whatever. Nothing matters. It doesn't matter. It won't matter because nobody cares about me anyway. And when our children or our students, or you yourself as a student, when you're using terms like that, you probably know that deep down you do actually care, but you just might be feeling overwhelmed. You might be feeling hopeless or stressed out. And so that causes you to do what's called shut down. And so, because you're trying to cope and understand the emotions that you're having, your brain just says, you know what, forget it. I'm out. I'm done. And so it just shuts down. And that's what gives you that attitude that I don't care. Nobody cares. This is stupid, etc. It's really important, and those of you who are students can attest to this. It's really important we accept our children for who they are. We absolutely have to have those boundaries and expectations as a family. We have to have a basis from where our morals and ethics come from. For some people, that's religion. For some people, that's how they were raised. So it's absolutely acceptable to have expectations for your children. And those of you who are students, you can have expectations for yourself. But really, really work on intentionally listening to who your child or student says they are versus who you wish they were or want them to be. And again, we have to find out what your child asks for. I read an article the other day and it said something along the lines of, for Christmas, maybe ask your child what they really want, or ask your friends what they really want. It might not be a gift card. It might not be a new pair of socks. It might not be an object or something that you can give them. It might be a 1 hour phone call. It might be that you babysit for your friend so that they can go take a nap for 20 minutes. So it was just really interesting to me that it triggered me to really consider what our kids are asking for, again, versus what we think would most benefit from them. So ways we can learn emotional intelligence strategies and build it within ourselves and our kiddos, we can learn together what strategies work. I'm going to give you a handful of strategies tonight, but you guys might say, oh, we tried that, it doesn't work. Or, oh, that one sounds interesting. And then you try it for 4 to 6 weeks and it doesn't work. Absolutely, you do not have to stay attached to anything for your family that isn't working. And so part of that self-reflection, again, is what helps us be emotionally intelligent enough to say, these are the systems and routines that are working, these aren't. Learn your child's triggers. My girls, when I pick them up at 4:15 at childcare at preschool, if I do not have a snack for them by about 4:45, we have global meltdown. So I have learned to have water and a snack ready for them because their last snack is at 2:30 at preschool. So by 4:15, they're about done. So we have to really pay attention to what triggers our child. If their siblings trigger them, maybe do a little space after school where the siblings take a 20-minute break from each other in separate places. And we're in a very small apartment with a lot of people, so I get it, but maybe give them some separate time. Whatever you look at and recognizes your child's triggers, or you as the student, if you know when you get home from school, you don't want to jump right in doing chores, you don't want to jump right into homework, instead of tantruming and whining and screaming, and my 16-year-old does that, so it's okay, we all do it. So instead of doing that, an emotionally intelligent way would be to go to your parents and say, gosh, can I really just have 10 or 15 minutes after school to eat a snack and drink some water and go on a short walk, or take the dogs for a walk or something. And then when I do that, I'll be ready to learn when I come back. Okay, so you have to communicate with your teachers and your parents what you need. That's okay. All right. We'll talk later about proactive steps to supporting emotions. So we want to try to get in front of things that we could see as possible stumbling, areas or roadblocks for our kids. And then I'm going to speak some tonight, and after tonight, I will give it to Ms. Hendricks. I'll have a resource guide for you for the Pikes Peak region, as far as counselors and therapists and fun places to go, and just things that you could do in the community to build your emotional intelligence. So finally, this is mostly, for our parents and families. However, I did share with our students, you guys can do this at school. You can really model your social emotional intelligence. Watch your words and phrases. For you students, the way you speak to your friends is really not an appropriate way to speak to your teachers and your family, and you have to learn that. You can engage in stop, breathe, and respond. So when we have stimulus or something that happens, it's automatic, and this world teaches us that we have to react right away. We have to have an answer, right? Our boss asks us something, we have to have an answer for it. Somebody posts something on Facebook, we have to put it in a comment and respond right away. So actually how we build our emotional intelligence is more to stop and consider what the stimulus was, take a deep breath, just take a moment, watch the clock and let a full minute go by, and then have a response. Nothing will happen in that minute that necessarily is world ending, unless you have kiddos going at one another, then obviously you have to engage right away. As adults, we have to identify our personal triggers. When little Johnny thwaps me in the head with a pencil, that's a trigger of mine. So when he does it, I'm going to turn my body away and walk a bit and take my breath. And then I'm going to come back and say, pencils are tools, not toys. They're meant to be used, not as weapons. Please finish your schoolwork. Using those I statements, I feel, I'm frustrated, I'm tired, I need. Those are all great statements we've heard about for many years. And then the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to stop sharing and come back with you to see what input you guys have. Just be honest about your mistakes and apologize. This goes for parents, families, and kiddos and students. If you've made a mistake, just own up to it. Mom, you know what? You're right. I told you that I submitted my assignment in Schoology. I didn't. I'm really sorry, and I don't really want to get an F in math or a C in math. So tonight or tomorrow night, I'm going to go back in and get that assignment submitted. I'm sorry I lied to you. So your parents will fall over if you do that, right? It's okay. And adults, we think we have to be perfect. We don't. It's okay to look at your kid and say, a phrase I've used before is, my message stands with my kiddos. What I've communicated to you still stands and is appropriate, but the way I communicated it wasn't very emotionally intelligent. I'm sorry for that. So it's okay to admit when we make mistakes and to apologize. That's going to help our kids do the same thing. Okay, I found my screen again where I can see you all again. I'm so sorry about that. So that was a lot of information and a lot of me talking. I would like to see, you can either physically raise your hand and I'll scroll through. If you're more comfortable putting it in the chat. Does anybody have any questions so far about what I've shared thus far?
So parents, these can be questions, these can be experiences, these can be ahas.
comments? Maybe you experienced something at work that, is similar to what I'm talking about.
The top of my lip. I think apologizing to your children is really powerful. My mom taught me that when I was a kiddo, and my dad didn't necessarily apologize because he did have this feeling, so it kind of gives, if you don't do that, it gives your kids a complex like that they need to be perfect. And I think it's kind of a beautiful and vulnerable way to make connections with your children. So I 100% agreed with that.
I love that, Emily. Thank you so much for sharing. That's it. Just that you even have that anecdote is in itself powerful, and uh, I think a lot of the parenting in certain generations, because it was how they were parented, was that there's this standard, but it's almost unreachable except for the person who's setting the expectation. And unfortunately, like you said, that just creates a lot of really hurt and confused feelings in kiddos, because they just feel like, there's this bar they can never hit, or the bar keeps moving. I know my own kiddos had some experiences with some family members, and they would just kind of learn what this family member wanted, and then it would change again. And so then they would get yelled at for something that they thought they had mastered, so that consistency, apologizing helps for that. You're right. I did tell you to pack your backpack every night. I'm just stressed out right now. So you should go pack your backpack, and then we'll do what I need you to do after that. So thank you so much for sharing. Does anybody else? And I'd love to hear from some of our students. You're so brave coming on here tonight after your poor faces have been in front of a screen all day. You must be exhausted. Are there any of my students who want to share? All right, I'll move forward, and then we're going to go ahead and hop into our breakout rooms. All right, we're going to talk about caregivers. That was actually a great segue into this slide, caregivers and sibling social emotional intelligence. I was an only child, and so that was a different and unique experience, because my dad would have emotions about my mom and share them with me, and then my mom would have emotions about my dad and share them with me. And it was terrible because I was like, who am I supposed to be mad at right now? What do I do? And then I just didn't want to know things. And, and finally told them I was about 8, go speak to each other about it. I don't want to hear it anymore. So there's a different challenge I'm learning as an only child who has 5 kids. There's a different challenge with siblings. I watch siblings and I'm fascinated. I think they are some of the coolest and most challenging things on the planet. As much as possible, try to align your caregivers, try to align them and their understanding of what you're doing in your family with your social emotional goals. Personally, I've typed out behavior charts. I've sent in emails. These are the 3 goals that we're working on right now. If you see this behavior, then do this. If you see this behavior, then do this. And it's really helped my folks who are in their late 60s, helping babysit and watch 4-year-old triplets sometimes. So, just really identifying. I have so learned, and I'm so thankful Parents Challenge is a part of it, but gosh, that village, absolutely is that true. And in my 20s, I was very bold and ignorant, and I was like, what is this village thing? I got this. And as I age, the more I see the benefit of the village, because there's multiple experiences and so much knowledge. But the importance in that is, if your kids have a babysitter, if they go over to a friend's house, it's okay to say to that friend's mom, we don't say shut up in our home. We say, please be quiet. Or when my son does this at your house, please, put this consequence in place. It really is important that your kids get similar messages across the board. Co-parenting can be either a really rewarding or a really challenging process. It is so important, as often as possible, that both of you be on the same page. One of the things that infuriates me is the court system. And oftentimes, Department of Human Services has the attitude of, well, you do at your house what works for you, and he'll do at his house what works for him, or she'll do at her house what works for her. And what's so hard about that is our kids are constantly doing what's called code switching. Okay, so when I'm with mom, this is acceptable, but when I'm with dad, he's gonna yell, or when I'm with dad, we do this and it's funny and it's fun and we're joking around with each other. But when I try to joke with mom like this, she gets mad and yells and I get in trouble. So there's going to be idiosyncrasies of everybody's personalities. It's never going to match up perfectly. But as often as possible, when you can really just try, to communicate with your co-parent about just even basic behavior, 2 or 3 rules or expectations would be a great place to start. And that would help your kid feel more confident in each of the households that they're in.
So Eliza, there's a question. Are teachers considered caregivers? And then what if you don't have a co-partner because you're a single mom or single dad?
Yes, these are fabulous questions. And thank you so much for alerting me to that, because I didn't see those. So thank you so much. Yes, teachers absolutely are considered caregivers. The only thing I would ask is, as a teacher and as a mom, is that you just approach the discussion with a simple email to start. Would you mind sharing with me some of the policies and procedures in your classroom, and 2 or 3 of the consequences, positive or negative, for students who don't follow your rules? What that's going to do is trigger the educator to say, wait a minute, do I really have consistent rules? What am I going to communicate to this parent? And either the educator is going to say, oh yeah, so look, I only ask 2 things of students, that they're respectful and that they remain focused while we're learning. And if they're disrespectful, I give them 2 warnings. And if it continues, they would earn a lunch detention. And if they're respectful, they earn, at our school, they're called Lancer cards. So it's a positive thing. If they show me they're respectful, they can earn a chance to buy soda and candy and popcorn. And then secondly, I ask they be engaged in their learning. So that means I'd like their assignments to be turned in as close to the due date as possible. And when they're in class, they need to share, one thing one time in my class. And so really try to have that back and forth. This is not an excuse, because I'm a type of educator who believes that we're there to serve our student needs and our family needs. I will tell you, at this time for educators, there's a lot of stress. We're spread pretty thin, and more so than normal. We're normally happy to be spread thin because that means we're doing our job right. But right now, from administration, our administrators are under undue amounts of stress, legal ramifications, we're trying to keep everybody safe, et cetera. So instead of maybe emailing a teacher saying, Johnny needs, and giving a list or a litany of 27 things, I would really like to help. And I know Johnny would like to be successful in your classroom. Could you tell me 1 or 2 things we could do to help that? So I hope that helps. We can talk about that more at the end too, because I can give you specific ideas. Regarding being a solo parent, I am a solo parent. I won't get into the details, but I am doing this on my own. There are some other influences that my kids are around sometimes, but it's mostly just me. So it's extremely challenging and exhausting to be responsible in my house for 5 different personalities and 5 different levels of emotional intelligence. That's actually a wonderful segue into my next bullet point on the slide. We do this as a family, because I tried doing it on my own and I had 5 different pathways and I was ready to pull my hair out. So, and I'm talking like August, I had to reevaluate. So the way I reevaluated is we do this together. So we eat dinner together. We go on family walks together. We do schoolwork together. So we're done with our family walk roughly around 6. So from 6 to 7 is homework hour. Now, my 12-year-old and 16-year-old are not going to get all their homework done during that time, but you know how much they knock out in an hour? Quite a bit. So they're sitting on the couch. I'm helping them. Sometimes I'm doing my homework for my schooling. And then the girls are on the floor working in their workbooks. They're reading their sight words, etc. If one of my kids happens to not have a lot of homework, they pop down to the floor and they start doing sight word practice with the girls. If I can do my homework later, I do practice with the girls, or I'm helping the boys with their schoolwork. So the biggest thing that has saved us, two things, are just having a routine that we stick to, like as closely as possible, Sunday through Thursday night, and then doing stuff together. I really enable and empower my older kids to model for the younger kids. Maybe you have, God bless you, a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and 1-year-old, something like that. Involve the 6-year-old and 4-year-old. They're old enough and they would love the opportunity to be a leader. We say to the triplets, oh gosh, who's being a leader? Uh-oh, I guess I don't see a leader yet. And then and they scramble to become a leader. They just want so bad to show that they can do the right. A leader right now comes right to the table and gets ready for dinner, and boom, they're at the table because they want to be a leader. So definitely involve the siblings in the entire family's goal, if that helps. The final thing is just to post it. We can talk and talk and talk like I am tonight, but really being able to read, they're called anchor charts. So when teachers or parents put families put things up on the wall that kids can go back to and reference. Oh yeah, when it's 4 o'clock, I do this. When it's 5 o'clock, I do this. You guys, I was doing so much talking in my family. I was exhausted. And I went into my classroom this year saying, I'm going to be quiet. I want those kids talking, not me. And so I've really switched it at home where the kids do most of the talking and my students do most of the talking, because it was just exhausting for me to try to drag everybody along. And really, as an emotionally intelligent parent, I want to try to enable them to have the life skills to communicate, the life skills to cope, the life skills to be resilient. They have to practice that while they're with me. I can't just tell them, be resilient. That's born and bred through trial and heartache and suffering and finding the strategies to pull yourself out of it. So the more that you can put in writing for them, the less exhausted you're going to be from talking the whole time. Do this, pick up your shoes, do that. Kids just tune it out. I'm going to tell you, you students can tell your parents in a polite, kind way, oh yeah, when my teacher's just talking, I just tune her out. When if you say pick up your shoes 47 times, you're going to have to say it 73 times. If you put the anchor chart, every time they pick up their shoes, they color in a little square. Then you look, oh, you got your 5 squares for the week. Here's your half hour of screen time. So the more systems you can put in place that require less talking, the better. And on that note, I think it's a perfect time for a breakout. You guys are going to get to talk to each other. So the two things I want you to consider or discuss: number one, what piece of information that was already shared with you sounds the most interesting and piqued your interest? And then you guys are incredible. I've been in sessions with many of you. The things that you share with Lori Batar and that you share with the presenters, it's incredible. I'm like taking note. I'm like, you guys mentioned something. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I'm taking notes. You guys have a wealth of knowledge and are incredible parents and incredible kids. So what have you already done? What have you already been doing that you're like, well, check me out. I've already been doing emotional intelligence with my kids. I didn't even know. Or if you're a kid, you're like, what? I'm emotionally intelligent and I can show my family how to do this. So if you have your students or kiddos with you, please do that. Please include them in this breakout, and you can chat about these two things. Thank you guys so much. I'm sure you had wonderful conversation. As I bring you back before I continue, I'll scroll through. I would love to hear either in the chat or if you guys want to just raise your hands and volunteer some of the highlights you had from your breakout room.
In our group, we talked about my son. He's the youngest one that I have at home. He's 17, and it's really hard for him to express his emotions or what's bothering with him. And he said that he loves to play game. And I told him, I said, well, I want to talk to you, and you gotta let me know what's going on, or because right now he's really struggling in his school, and so he likes to play game. And I tell him, I said, well, once you open up to me, let me know what's going on, or how are you feeling. I said, we can I'll let you play a game afterwards, but I need you to open up to me. It's really hard with him. Maybe he's the only one. I mean, my other sons, they're all grown when they were together in the home, but my son Ramito, he's the only one that's been by himself, you know, besides with his sister from last year, but now she's, so it's just hard with him for him to express his feelings and to open up with me and to show his emotions.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
we
thank you
talked
so
about
much
that.
okay.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's what we talked about, that, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. My 16-year-old is a gamer and my 12-year-old loves sports. And then with COVID, he started getting more into games and I was like, here's what we're gonna do. So, you know, mine don't hop on games until they show me in Schoology those little indicators that their assignment's been submitted. My eldest was then even submitting the wrong assignments. And so then I had to
Yeah.
start checking in his assignments, making sure your
Mhm.
math goes to your math teacher friend, your science goes to, you know, I feel like we shouldn't have to do this, but right now we have to do whatever works for them. So, but my 16-year-old told me gaming is how he gets his emotions out. And he knows that's a safe way to do it. And he would never, you know, pick up a gun with the intention to hurt anybody in real life, but
Right.
it is an outlet for him. So I have such a hard time with just completely taking that away when it's one of the ways he feels confident. He does also see a counselor and has virtual sessions with her. But he's starting to feel even kind of a little old, you know, to do that. So I hear you. I hear you. It's difficult, but I use it as a motivator often. If this, then 30 minutes. If that, then you can hop on to tonight at 8:30 and play for an hour.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to mention too, my son, I was really proud of him. He did schedule up a meeting with his teacher, just him and his teacher, to talk about an essay that's really important for his class. And I told him, I said, wow, Ramiro, I'm very proud of you, you know, because I told him, I said, if you can't get yourself together, I said, I can't be behind you all the time for you to push you. You're 17, you're a senior, you know, you're going to be done with high school. I said, you need to make this effort and pushing it, not me calling the teachers. You need to do it. So
Yep.
he's doing
Great.
it. And I said, you're not playing game. And I mean it. And you're not, you have to. So, and I know like when you said your son, yeah, playing game, it expresses emotions. Yeah, that's true. It's true. I see him do that too, but he made that effort to communicate with his teacher, to schedule a time and to have that chat with her and see what can be done to improve his grade,
Yep.
you know, and
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
so I know I was really surprised and I
Yeah.
was really happy.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're
And that's
welcome.
something too, when, you know, we're first trying to change behaviors, it doesn't matter the age of the kid and they might look at you like you're crazy because sometimes my students look at me like that and I love it because that means I'm rocking their world. But you look at them, oh my gosh, so-and-so, say your child's name. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm so proud of you. That really showed emotional intelligence, or that really showed that you're taking ownership, you know, of your behaviors. And if you don't normally talk to your kids like that, they're going to look at you kind of weird, but they love it. Deep down, they love it. So keep doing it. All right. Anybody else? Raise your hands. Go ahead and just speak up. What did you, hey, those of you who have students or kiddos, Jamie, you go ahead. And then if there's anybody, any of the kids who want to talk, I'd love to hear from you guys.
Okay, am I unmuted? I can never tell.
You are. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, in our group, we talked about how important it is to step away and take time before responding, because oftentimes in the heat of the moment, you'll respond maybe irrationally or in a way that you might regret later. And so just recognizing that when there is the frustration, it's really good to just step away. And then I shared that in our family, we've been really trying to identify our emotions. And so we have like this like feeling or emotions chart and like anger iceberg and different things like
Nice.
that when like instead of just saying like I'm sad or I'm mad, being able to identify like, no, I'm lonely or I'm frustrated or agitated or whatever, and expanding the vocabulary around emotions. And so even at the dinner table, we'll oftentimes like, okay, give me 3 emotions today that you experience. And they can be, you know, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, but just even being able to expound the vocabulary around what we're feeling so that when things come up, we can identify it more accurately.
Spectacular. Yeah, absolutely. I would love copies of those too. If you want to email
Yeah,
them to me, I would
sure.
love that. I'm always looking for more and more resources. Those are great. And you guys, this is what I'll put in the resource brochure and handout. Even if you just contact Aspen Point and you say, I just want an initial discussion with a behaviorist, or behavioral case manager, they'll have access to so many of those emotion circles and charts and games. And that's part of what I'm going to put in the brochure too. And share tonight. There's games you can play that help teach emotions. And you know what? Your 18-year-old, 17-year-old, 16-year-old is not too good to sit there and play with your little kids. That I explain to my boys all the time. You are investing in your sisters and you are modeling for them, what men, because we don't have a man in our household, what men look like and how men should treat you. And you are also modeling for them what a family looks like and that you're their siblings and you care about them. So you're investing this time in them. So it's a love language too. So thank you so much. Those are wonderful suggestions. See, I told you, you guys are so smart. I told you. Amanda, do your little ones want to speak up or no? They're not little. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. She's like 9. What am I doing? Miss Love. Jeez. No.
Actually, she's like 12.
Oh
They're-
my gosh. I'm so
They're
sorry.
twins. They're small for their age, but
Exciting. So you guys have to tell me, you guys make it. You're twins. You do grow up. You make it.
well, twins show up. They're really sweet and good, but very different. Stop. They're preoccupied with their baby chicks.
Yes, those are
But
exciting.
they didn't want to. I
That's
will
okay.
say they live in a house with a daycare, so we always have kids over here, even when we're not doing daycare. And so they do have a lot of experience with emotional intelligence because when you take like 5 or 6 kids from 5 or 6 different homes and put them together in a home environment, you have to be pretty emotionally intelligent. Plus, because I have a school age daycare, I've had a lot of kids who have been expelled or suspended from school whose parents have to work. So they're like masters at having kids who with challenging behaviors right up in their house. So
Yeah.
they're
Well,
really, I get a lot of compliments on them because they're just pros at this point.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Amanda, bless you for doing that because I firmly believe outside of kids who have really just severe emotional deficiencies that require hospitalization or medication, I don't believe we need to be expelling kids, suspending possibly to give them a little time away to think and impart to them how serious their choices are. But gosh, that all that does is separate and distance, and we need to be bringing in
I
and
agree.
and educating.
Well, and some
Thank
of my kids who were expelled and stuff did later end up they were in and out of mental hospitals. But, what I always tell the kids is that I don't give up on kids because when they grow up, those kids are going to be adults in the society with them. And when I'm elderly, I'm going to need all these kids who are adults to take good care of me and make good choices. So,
and be able to express, right? They're all the different range of emotions.
yes.
That's perfect. Well, you guys are doing a fabulous job. Thank you. All right. Anybody else real quick that would like to share before I jump back in? I'm scrolling through here. Some of your cameras are not on, so if you feel more comfortable putting it in the chat or raising your hand, that would be great. All right. Speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm going to move on. All right. So I do apologize to those of you who have elementary school students. I think it was this morning at like 8:30 this morning that it came in that we had some younger elementary. And I was at work all day. So I apologize that I started at 4th grade, but a lot of these you can adapt down, same strategies just for younger kiddos as well. And at the end, my specialty and focus is early childhood. So if you have questions at the end, I can share more about preschool on up. So here are some actual strategies, and the lovely Hendrixes sent out the slide for you so you can refer to it in the future. So I broke it down based upon those 5 tenets or those 5 aspects of social emotional learning. So self-awareness, kids can, and this is actually all grade levels, 4th through 12th. They can draw self-portraits. Kids love, they call them graphic novels. I'm like, okay, they're comic strips. So they can draw comic strips. They can write out I statements. I'm angry when, I feel frustrated if, I feel scared if, I don't understand why I got yelled at tonight. Sometimes kids don't want to journal, but if they want to sit down and write one sentence, write me one sentence about how you're feeling, and then you can go play. They'll do that a lot of times. And then really just interest surveys, helping kids find out what they're interested in themselves. Sometimes I can tell when my young or older kids are getting bored, and I'm like, you need to figure out what to do. You need to find another interest because you're not going to be on screens right now. So what else are you interested in? Those self-regulation skills, teaching the deep breathing, anger meters, just like the iceberg one. Looking at meditation. There's one that's amazing that my aunt sent me. It's called Sitting Still Like a Frog. Sitting Still Like a Frog. And they're 5-minute meditations that we do in the evening. Physical routines. My son's going to teach me, he was in track and then they shut track down. So he's going to teach me the warm-ups that they did every day for track, and we're going to do them as a family as the weather holds, or do them inside as we're able. Motivation. You guys, 95% of behaviors in your kids, in yourselves, in your coworkers, in your bosses, it comes from motivation. We're motivated by something. We're angry, we're tired, we're hungry. You haven't been to the bathroom in 8 hours. Something is motivating or contributing to either positively motivating you or negatively motivating you. And so really, when you look at your kids' behaviors, I wonder what they need. My younger son, he told me I could share it. He used to have, from age 4 to 8, he used to have bouts of rage. I mean, it was rage, breaking things, pulling my hair, trying to break my glasses, throwing things, hitting me. It was rage. And we were in counseling. He was going to counseling 2 or 3 times a month, and he'd be fine in counseling. And then I'd get it when we got home. So something that that changed that around was, I heard on the radio when he was 5, what do you need? You just ask your kid, what do you need? So nothing would pull him out of his rage, but he'd get in it and I'd look at him and I'd say, honey, what do you need? And he'd stop every time. I'm just hungry. I'm just thirsty. I'm just tired. Okay, well then let's go get a drink of water together. And it changed my life. I was like, I tried so many dang strategies, and all I had to do was ask this kid what he needed. That's like not rocket science. But we get so caught up in like, I need a chart and I need a strategy. Just ask your kids what they need. Ask your spouse, what do you need? Ask yourself. We don't take care of ourselves, whether we're in a marriage, whether we're not in a marriage, with lots of kids, no kids. We're really bad as people about taking care of ourselves. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? And how is that contributing to how I'm acting? Again, set those short-term goals, give support along the way. Carol Dweck does talk about specific phrase. So if your kid specifically, has been working on taking ownership, returning in their assignments, so-and-so, I'm so proud of you that you took initiative to email your teacher independently. That's incredible. Let's, keep that behavior up. That's exactly what I want to see and what's going to prepare you to go to college. I'm so proud of you for emailing your teacher independently, and just keep hitting it home specifically what they've done. Ways in young kids to build empathy, volunteering, counseling. When they volunteer, they're going to see people who have less than they do, people who are different than they are, people who have different needs than they do. Get them into counseling. You can start with a school counselor. You can go to Aspen Point and get a referral. You can contact your medical insurance and health insurance and find out what counselors are in there. It doesn't cost mostly anything usually to just go have an initial session. Tell the counselor what you're seeing, what some of your goals are, and get some input. Drawing, art therapy is a thing, and then having a diverse group of friends, encouraging multiple races, multiple genders, multiple backgrounds and households. The more we get together and understand each other, even virtually right now, the better off we'll be. And then building those social skills. Gosh, what a difficult thing right now. What a challenge. Make sure they have friends of all ages, of course, safely, that older kids are responsible enough to understand how they should act around the younger kids. There's tons of, if you Google books about social skills for 5th graders, you're going to get gobs and gobs of resources. Getting them in sports, I'm crying right now. That was my 12-year-old's outlet, and it's just terrible that I get it. I know we have to be safe. I understand all of that. But for many kids, that took a great outlet away. Try to have them do the stuff inside. There are some drills and warm-ups and things that they can practice indoors. And then virtual groups. My 12-year-old, I caught him using his WebEx for school to hop on and talk to his friends. And just for a minute, I had to sit and think about it like as an employee. And then I had to sit and think about it as a mom. And then I was like, you know what? I don't care. This is great. These are great kids. And they took the initiative to build emotional intelligence by saying to themselves and each other, I miss you. I need time with you. And so they just had a great time. And I may have just stood outside the door just a little bit to make sure they were all staying on the up and up. For those of you who have high schoolers, college age kids, this was fun for me to put together because I'm normally early childhood, and I was like, oh, there's so many things. For self-awareness, they can create a vision board. Listen, I have my child's futures mapped out. Again, if it's not what they want for their future, we're going to battle. If we sit together and I make a vision board for me and they make a vision board for themselves, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we're learning about each other. And then I know specifically what they want out of life and how to help drive them towards those goals instead of shoving my goals down their throat. A podcast. Your teenager can create a podcast and invite all their friends to watch it. Put it safely on YouTube and put it on private, and they can give the link only to the people they choose. They can start a podcast, and then people can their friends can respond to them as to what they think. Writing college entrance essays. That's a great way for them to learn about themselves. Do comedy. I've done stand-up comedy before, and it's taught me a lot about myself. And then that art therapy I mentioned. So I'm not going to read through all of these because I know you guys have the handout, but just I'll mention a few: creative writing, setting those goals, self-care routines. Right now, I am not modeling really the best self-care routines for my kids. And I'm thinking about like, what do I need to show these girls as being adult women who are trying to have it all, but what does that mean and what does that look like? Because if I'm an emotional wreck, is it really worth, pushing myself so hard? Or can I show them how to push yourself hard towards your goals, and remain stable? Let me see. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is a huge one. Well, I'm going to get to that in a future slide. Sorry, I just saw it and it reminded me. You guys can go back to this slide. I hope it's helpful to you, but I've just put together some basic learning resources, and then I'll have that brochure coming out. So there's actually a Center for Academic and Social Emotional Learning. I gave you that website. It's totally free. They have strategies pre-K through 12th. There's something called the emotions game, if you can believe it. It's younger, K through 5th. If you go on Etsy, it's $5. Cognitive behavioral therapy means you're changing what's happening in your child's brain when you're helping them modify their behaviors. It's called Think, Feel, Do. There's this website called Teachers Pay Teachers. You can go on it if you're not a teacher. It's incredible. So many resources, so many of them free. This one's only $5. Here's a website, Teachers Pay Teachers as well, social emotional learning activities. You just put that in the search bar. The cost is anywhere from free to about $20 for activities. Centervention, like intervention, they have social emotional strategies and activities digitally or that you can print out. That's free, that website. And then there's a book that's incredible through Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Goodreads, Raising an Emotionally Intelligent Child. It was written back in the 90s, and I perused and flipped through some of it. It was extremely applicable to today. So you might want to think about that. Let me see. I just want to flip through real quick and see if we have another. Okay, I'm going to come back to you guys. So I have roughly about 3 more slides to go. You guys feel like you can hang in there, and then I'll do questions at the end. So maybe give me a thumbs up in your cameras if you feel like you could hang in there, and then that would leave us some time for questions at the end. Cool, great. Now you guys know what your kids go through when they're in school. Teachers are like, give me a thumbs up, put a number 1 in chat. Oh, I love that virtual thumbs up. Great. That was great, Candina. Nice job. I love it. All right, cool. Okay. One of the biggest challenges really is when you have special needs kiddos or kiddos that have those neurodiversities. So this could be, special needs, dysgraphia, dyslexia, ADD, ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, giftedness. Those are just a few of the neurodiverse. So there's this new term, right? And now it's neurodiverse. I love it actually, because it just means that our brains work differently. Anybody who's a parent or an educator of a neurodiverse kiddo knows that's absolutely the truth. And I hate that we just push everybody into this mold and we can't just respect students individually for how they need and want to learn. This breaks my heart and I get a little emotional because my oldest son and I believe my youngest triplet have symptoms of ADD. It's estimated that those with ADD or ADHD receive 20,000 more negative messages by age 12 than those without the condition. Why are you doing that? Why did you drop that? Oh, you spilled again? Did you have an accident again? I can't believe you. Pick that up. Put your shoes away. I've told you a million times to put your shoes away. Get dressed. Why can't you just get dressed by yourself? Your sister's 2 years younger than you are, and she gets dressed by herself. So, like, I'm being real right now, right? So we may have heard some of those things. We may have said some of those things. If you're a kiddo, you may have heard some of those things. Okay. So realistically, we're going to slip sometimes as parents. Realistically, our self-care is poor and our emotional needs are so intense that we just mess up. Okay. So, like, once in a while, okay. But if you have an educator who constantly is digging and wheeling and needling into your kid, tell the principal immediately. Okay. Now listen very closely. I'm an educator. I've had parents email extremely angry over something their kid said happened that never happened. Okay. And myself and my coworkers were in a room and it just didn't happen. So
Liza,
yes, ma'am.
what is dysgraphia?
Yes, so that's similar to dyslexia, but with numbers and symbols and images. So oftentimes there's a misconception with dyslexia that it's like just switching the letters. But it actually, some people with dyslexia only see half of the letters. Some of them see the letters upside down, inverted, around. So dysgraphia impacts students sometimes with their math skills. They almost have a dyslexia about math or about reading and writing words and symbols. Thank you for letting me know that. So again, it's so important. So if there is something happening where your kid feels bullied or a relational aggression from their educator to them, where guess what? Johnny's the only one getting picked on, and Timmy does the same thing Johnny does, but the teacher smiles at Timmy and says, it's okay, try again next time. I mean, if you're seeing or hearing from your kid a systematic, bullying, and your kid has one of these things or doesn't, I just encourage you to maybe reach out to the school counselor. Sometimes it's a little bit better than the principal. It's not viewed as aggressive when parents reach out to the counselors, and the counselor really is going to be the one who's going to meet with that teacher and say, what are some strategies we can put in place to help this, the student not feel this way? Because those intellectuals who have these, neurodiverse situations, they're going to grow up to rely on coping mechanisms that aren't great, because they're going to just feel really bad about themselves, and the world's going to miss out on their gifts and their specialness. Low self-esteem and shame lead to high-risk behaviors. So if you, why did you do that? That's so stupid. I can't believe you did that. Now you did that, and now your sisters don't have anything. I can't believe you were that selfish. Instead of, so-and-so, before you ate that last cookie, did you ask anybody if they wanted it? Okay, so next time, could you please ask your sisters if they had a chance to get a cookie, or ask your brother if he had wanted that, and maybe at least share him with it in the future. You're sending the same message, but man, there's a really different meaning there, okay? So focus on building that self-esteem. Oh, daily affirmations are my favorite thing. So my kids are like, sometimes I let them do it verbally, but we either write on a Post-it or we just speak it in the car on the way to school. I appreciate so-and-so because of blank. I appreciate so-and-so because of blank. When we come home, I don't ask them how their day was, what they did. I ask them, what was a cool experience that you had with a teacher? What was something that one of your peers said or another student said that was interesting to you? What was something you did that you weren't proud of that you're going to change tomorrow? So we just ask those specific questions versus like, what did you do? I don't know, nothing, right? All right. Just real quick, those students who are college bound or college students, did we have another question, Deb?
Sorry. No.
No. Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much.
I'm unmute button.
I know I caught you off guard. I'm sorry. Listen, nowadays, oh my gosh, I read this thing on Facebook and it said I'm young enough to adapt to technology like a millennial, but I'm old enough to get angry about it like a boomer. And I kind of feel like a lot of us in this group are in that place. Like, I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna do it well because I can, but sometimes I'm gonna get angry about it because like our phones used to be on the wall and I used to use a pencil and a paper for things. So I'm a little bit irritable that I have to do it this way. Please use texting and private messaging through Facebook and stuff to communicate. You're going to get a much more positive response than calling, unless you have that great relationship. Set an agreement for a weekly call. All right, you're heading off to college. My expectation every Friday night, 6 p.m. I don't hear from you 6 p.m. Friday night. I'm going to be here Saturday morning at 8 a.m. bright and shiny at your door. Oh boy, they're going to call you at 6 p.m. on Friday night. Okay, you see on Facebook that your teenager or college student, they're posting on I guess Facebook now is for old people, but whatever, they're posting on Snapchat or Insta or whatever they're using, right? And you've been texting them for 3 days and they don't answer. Now, if it's a teenager living in your home, there's different rules and expectations. But please, with your college student, please don't take it personally. They respond to who they want to when they want to. And really, they've been with you their whole lives so far. So you just may not be high on their list. And that we just have to kind of work through that hurt, on our own with our friends. Please, please, please do. If you know that you have a high school student who's going to be heading to college soon and they're on antidepressant medication, anti-anxiety medication, they presently see a counselor, please inform the college of that before the day they get there. So have conversations with the college counselors, the residence hall managers, and other staff about any pre-existing medical or emotional conditions. That's going to make sure the counselors on campus are checking in with your student regularly. Hey, just, not to pry, but you taking those meds every day, yada, yada. It's going to be a professional who can check in with them. Unfortunately, and I'll try to go past this slide quickly, sorry, but there's some unhealthy coping mechanisms that you guys know, things we can drink, things we can take, interactions we have with others that are trying to fill that need that we have that aren't as healthy as going to a counselor to ask for help, okay? This speaks to what you guys asked me earlier. So just over here, it just says rewired for respect. So we're just trying to rewire our students, our children's brains, each other as a society. We've got to love and respect each other. Listen, you can be low income. You might be a solo parent. You might have one parent in your household, like was shared with us earlier, who's like, no, I'm going to parent you. You're going to sit down and be quiet and do what I say. And that's what you're going to do. And that's how I'm going to parent. And then the other parent's like interested in using all these strategies. Okay. Regardless of your situation, and it might feel hopeless. And I've been there and I could be there tomorrow. I get it. You will make the difference in your family's life by considering your child's emotions and feelings and asking each day, as well as monitoring your own. We have these things, well, my grandpa did it to my dad, did it to me, I'm doing it to my kids. Those are called generational sins, generational habits. We can break those. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a heck of a lot of work because I'm doing it right now. Okay. But you can do it. You can break those routines. You can break those tapes in your head. If you do this, you're worthless. If you do that, you're terrible. Children should be seen and not heard. I mean, those are just some of the archaic like things that really were believed to be the best in parenting. And you can build that social emotional intelligence. I am all done. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I just wanted to share one of my favorite quotes. There was a gentleman named Viktor Frankl, and he actually was a survivor out of the Holocaust internment camps. And he was having a really hard time because they were beating him, they were withholding food. You know, you can just use your imagination. And then one day he said he woke up and realized they can do whatever they want to my body. They can't get in here and they can't get in here. And so he says between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So he was being treated a certain way. He chose to stop and look at the space in between how they treated him and how he responded. And when he responded to his captors with empathy, he grew and he was free, no matter the fact that they had him in a 2x2 cell. So, and then I just listed the people I'm, affiliated with who have helped me get to this point. And on the last slide, there's my contact information. I have a Gmail account for a business that I'm getting running to help people with their families. I'm on Facebook with Critical Thinking Kids as a page. And then I have my number and my name if you need to get a hold of me.
In the chat, everybody put something that you've learned today. Put something that you've learned today about yourself in the chat. Generational sins, to be more intentional, asking my kids what they need. Best approach, a teacher, if I have a concern, pay attention to the different emotional needs. It's better to take a minute before you respond. Vision boards. Taking advantage of small moments to capitalize on building students' emotional intelligence. Be direct with expectations. A minute for difficult situations, asking different questions when kids come home from school. 20,000 negative messages for ADHD kids. Trying to go back, some of it went too fast. Listening. Good, having a good relationship with kids. Creating systems so I can not talk as much. Okay, some really good things in terms of takeaways. And emotional intelligence kind of has to start with us because it's hard to teach our kids how to be emotionally intelligent when we ourselves can't manage our own emotions. And I always like to say is that, sometimes when I felt that I was over the top, I give myself a timeout. Mommy's going to take a timeout. I'll be right back. That was always a fun thing for me because my kids would be like, what's wrong with mommy? Why is she taking a timeout? I need a timeout.
And some of us take a time out behind a closed door and we got kids banging on the door, and it's so hard, but you just get that pillow and scream. Or I've sat there on the floor bawling sometimes and I'm like, then I wipe it off and go back out. Mama, were you crying? Yep, mommy, sure was. Why? And they just don't know. I just was feeling a little tired and frustrated. Oh, I'm sorry. They say, it's okay. We're back. So guys, I'm so humbled. This is so much fun. And I can get with some of you individually for some deeper strategies and personal family things, but gosh, and thank you to the Hendrickses for letting me present. This was really great. So I'm thankful to each of you.
Absolutely. Let's give her some appreciation.